Nobel Laureate for Energy, Steve Chu, is right here with us at Stanford University for Thrive 2026 conference.
Mentioned I was Secretary of Energy for 4 1/3 years with Obama. Since then, I've actually been doing in my own personal research energy on batteries, carbon capture, especially because I've realized that we're going past the climate goals of the IPCC. Both the Ukraine invasion and the Iran war have really unsettled the markets. And it's very clear, most countries are looking at this and saying that energy security, having access to energy, has become number one. Energy costs number two. Way down the list are the climate goals.
We took this ability to trap atoms, you get them really cold, and you can toss them up, and they can turn around due to gravity. And in the time they're in free flight, turning around due to gravity, you have a long time to make a measurement. You can make a better clock.
And so this is useful for navigation of ships, airplanes, cars. Tractors in the Midwest also know landmarks, so they can plow lines in very straight things. And they can be used for measuring the ocean heights as a reference. That is the ocean height relative to the center of mass of the Earth as the polar caps melt. Due to perhaps global warming, then the sea rises.
Nobel Laureate for Energy, Steve Chu, is right here with us at Stanford University for Thrive 2026 conference by GSA Forum, the Global Science Innovation Forum. Welcome to YoIndiaTV with me, Jasleen Khanuja. How's your experience so far at the conference?
Well, I'm just observing, learning. The themes of the conference, global health, energy, accessibility are very timely.
Great stuff happening in AI. This is the amount of electricity because of the amount of the way we're doing it with, like, for example, large language models. This is the scale of how many fully important operations you need in order to set up a large language model or do an inquiry. We're talking about exascale gigawatt servers, not for a company, but for one server of one company. And if you compare that to, let's say, for example, the little girl on the left, it's a 4-year-old. If her mother speaks one language, father speaks one language, and if they're rich, they have a nanny or a student living speaks a third language. They figured it all out by age 4, and they can freely translate between all the parties, and they can, without much training at all, tell the difference between cats and dogs. And then you have on the right-hand side a young person doing physics experiments. The amount of data they need in order to do this is many orders of magnitude less than AI.
So, when it comes to energy and innovation, who better than you? Tell me a little more about your research and how it is applicable in the current day scenario.
Well, just as background, as you might have mentioned, I was Secretary of Energy for 4 1/3 years with Obama. Since then, I've actually been doing in my own personal research energy on batteries, carbon capture, especially because I've realized that we're going past the climate goals of the IPCC, 1.5, even 2 degrees C. I'll mention this in a brief talk I'm going to give later. And there are certain areas that are very hard to abate, especially greenhouse gases associated with fertilizer agriculture. And so we will need all the tools we have. There are certain technologies that are racing forward, but there are others that haven't really begun.
Human activity is really changing the destiny of our planet. The planet is not an infinite resource. Now, why should you care? Well, think about it this way. If you say, I'm only interested in myself, you are really turning your back on something where we are a connected world. We're one people. Something that affects what happens halfway around the world will affect us. And we see this now because the world is getting to be a more crowded place. When countries collapse, when agriculture collapses, you get refugees. And so this whole business of caring not only about your immediate family, but about what is really happening in the world and the use of the world's resources does, in fact, affect all of us because we are a whole bunch of people in a smaller planet.
How do you think the currently ongoing wars, the Russia-Ukraine war, the Iran war, the Palestine-Israel war, all of these and a lot more things that we are feeling might happen, the actual world war, and God forbid it shouldn't happen. But how is this going to fuel the energy crisis?
Well, it's having a profound impact. Both the Ukraine invasion and the Iran war have really unsettled the markets. And it's very clear, most countries are looking at this and saying that energy security, having access to energy, has become number one. Energy costs number two. Way down the list are the climate goals. But that's a human reaction. Ever since humans were around, you respond to the short-term emergency staring you in face, and the long-term dire emergency of climate change and what will happen is being pushed to the background. So as we deal with all the short-term things, will there be more short-term things that will continue to advance in front of the long-term goals? I don't know. I hope we need to keep our eye on both the short-term exigencies, but the long-term stuff. But the energy access, energy security, energy costs have always been ahead of sustainability.
The sun is the source of energy that creates the wind. The sun evaporates water and creates rain, and we have hydropower. The sun, of course, allows us to have solar power. Fossil fuel was actually created by the sun. This is mostly plants that have long since lived, died, and turned into fossil fuels. So virtually every form of energy is from the sun. Now, what we've learned is you can accumulate fossil fuels over tens of millions or hundreds of millions of years, and if it all comes out in a few hundred years, there's going to be tragic consequences. The amount of energy created by the sun in the form of wind, in solar, in evaporating water so you can have hydropower, also the same thing that makes currents in oceans, all ultimately driven by the sun, are the things where you can try to tap into those. That plus energy storage will allow us to finally get off of fossil fuels.
And a lot of the electric vehicles that are in effect, particularly here, we see a lot of EV vehicles in California. Do you think that this is balancing the energy crisis?
It's helping a lot, and especially what's happening now in the cost of EVs and the improvements in batteries. It's been profound. China has, as they did with solar, they've overinvested, but that overinvestment euphoria has also driven lots of innovation, driven the prices down. And so in the end, it's a good thing. But just like solar, there were a lot of solar companies in Europe and the United States, in China that went bankrupt. There are going to be a lot of EV companies that go bankrupt. Nevertheless, that's one spectacular progress in technology, which will help. It's part of a lot of things. It will help a lot.
Peak load shifting. We don't have batteries now cheap enough to go for 2-day storage. If you think about the difference between 1-day storage and 2-day storage, you use the battery half as often. Therefore, the battery has to be twice as inexpensive, roughly. 1 month storage, you got a real problem. Okay, so if you look at the history in California from 2015 to 2023, and more solar, you begin to go into this overgeneration capacity. And so what happened, what stimulated this issue, And California right now is 70% carbon-free electricity, of which 60% is renewable. We're planning to go to 85% renewable. Mostly the new renewable will be mostly solar. And so what California has done is it has invested a lot of money to install nearly 16 gigawatts of battery. So during the peak noontime hours when there's a lot of solar, you charge the battery and then the battery discharges. But the scale of this is enormous, but this is in gigawatts. So when you're going 6 p.m., the batteries, the peak electrical load is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m., and so the batteries are returning back the power.
What's your message to all the viewers of YoIndiaTV who are taking inspiration from you? You know, maybe all of them want to hear from the Nobel Laureate, and maybe they are also trying to do some research and innovation.
Well, I think India has a very proud tradition. I've just been learning they have very innovative things, even in terms of credit card charging. So I think that India can be really a pioneer in innovation, and they're beginning to recognize this, but I would encourage them to continue and step up to the plate, and this innovation would be a good thing for the entire world, as well as for India.
Do something that matters beyond your immediate world. And when you're old and gray and look back on your life, you'll want to be proud of what you have done. The source of that pride won't be the things you've acquired or the recognition you've received. It will be the lives you've touched and the difference you have made. Science in general, physics in particular, is an extremely noble profession. You're seeking how nature works, finding out the truth. It's not about money, I hope, because it's a wrong choice. It's about all the good things that could come of this research that you're doing, and also because you're fundamentally seeking the truth, there is a spirit and a cooperation that you might not find in business.
That's a great message. Any particular innovation in US that you want to highlight for the viewers?
No. I'm going to be technologically neutral, but thank you anyway.
Thank you so much.